We're here today with Mr. John Rogers, who is the CEO, Chairman, and also Chief Investment Officer of Ariel Investments, legendary firm in Chicago. And we're glad to have you here today. And I know that you've served on many board of directors. Currently, you're on McDonald's and Exelon. And you've also in the past been on Aon and GATX and also Bally Total Fitness, which is very impressive. So given your wisdom and expertise, when you think about minorities, and I'm thinking of persons of color where we're underrepresented, in terms of board of director seats, what does the picture look like currently?
Well, my understanding is the number of seats for African American directors have actually gone down over the last 10 years or so. We're really not making progress, and it's really disappointing. But thank goodness Black Enterprise has started to report regularly on the lack of diversity in Fortune 500 companies, and they're starting to put a lot of pressure on these companies to open up these boardroom seats.
And that's good to hear. Now, of course, one of the things that we find still troubling is how do you position yourself? If you happen to be African American or Latino, what should you be doing with your career where you can once again position yourself to get on one of these boards?
Well, I tell people all the time, one of the standard stories of how to get on boards, I think is still relevant. Being a leader in your local community, being engaged in whatever the nonprofit boards are, so you have a chance to shine, show leadership skills, the ability to get things done in a nonprofit community can often lead to a corporate boardroom. Of course, secondly, doing well at your corporation, whether you're an entrepreneur or working in a large organization, being successful, moving up the executive ranks, again, showing leadership and skills and teamwork within the corporate world. But finally, the one thing that I say that's a little bit differently, I found that a lot of people, if they get involved politically, get on board early in a campaign, show your teamwork skills again, show your ability to get things done for a candidate. You're often rubbing shoulders with big-time CEOs if you're in a Senate race or a mayor's race or a presidential campaign, and often that leads to board seats.
Excellent. Wonderful piece of advice. Now, in terms of your career, and it is a storied career, you were at Princeton, and while at Princeton, you were captain of the basketball team, I understand?
It was a miracle.
It was a miracle. I'm sure you're being modest, yeah.
I was telling someone the story the other day when I made the team. Coach Krill was like, not sure how much longer we can keep you here. I got the 15th uniform on a 15-man team.
Oh, wow.
So it was a miracle that I got to be the captain.
Well, and it all worked out, as we can tell. Now, you were an econ major, is that also correct? Or?
Yes.
So when you're done with Princeton, a lot of your fellow classmates I know went to J.P. Morgan, or they thought about, hey, maybe I can go over here to Merrill Lynch. And you decided to work for William Blair and Company. Why that decision?
Well, two things. One, I did interview at Merrill Lynch corporate internship program, and they didn't accept me.
Oh.
So okay. Since Merrill Lynch turned me down, I said, maybe I should go back home to Chicago. And William Blair was the real leading firm in Chicago, a terrific place, great leadership. And the managing partner at the time, Ned Janata, had gone to Princeton. He had played football there. And so having that Princeton connection allowed me to get in the door at a really great, prestigious investment banking firm. And I was the first African-American professional ever hired at William Blair. So it was a great opportunity.
Okay. And you're at a great shop, and then this is the hard decision. That's the entrepreneurial spark that happens. At some point you decide, hey, I'm going to step out on my own, and I'm going to set up my own shop. How did you come to that Eureka moment?
Well, there's several things that were happening all at once then. It was right around that 1983 period. Minority entrepreneurs in Chicago were doing really well. George Johnson with Afro Sheen and Ultra Sheen, John Johnson with Ebony and Jet Magazine. They were these extraordinary entrepreneurs, great role models who had found a niche, got started early, and really made a difference in Chicago and nationally. And so I said, I had this love of the stock market. It had been a hobby of mine growing up. I traded my own portfolios in college. So I said, maybe if I can start a business around financial services, build the first African-American money management and mutual fund in the country's history, I'd be following in their footsteps just with a different niche. So that was inspiring. And the second thing was I had this strategy of investing around small and mid-cap value stocks.
Okay.
That back then, doing it with sort of a Buffett patina to it, buying really high-quality companies that were smaller and undervalued, that was distinctive. And when you're trying to start a new business, you want to have a product that's a little bit different than the marketplace.
Absolutely.
So I think that gave us a real opportunity to make a difference early on.
So you had a great vision and you went for it. That's great. And now, here at the Smith School, one of the things we talk about is corporate social responsibility. That's our watchwords. That being the case, when you think about your career, and you've done so much, And in particular for African Americans, I understand you've reached back to our community and you've done things to help in terms of financial literacy. So what would that entail?
Well, really 20 years ago, Arnie Duncan was working at Ariel.
Oh, okay.
And we had gone to the same high school. I had known him growing up. He loved basketball also. And when he finished playing professionally in Australia, I wanted him to be a part of the Ariel team. But I knew that he was interested in community service, not in investing. So he came on board at Ariel, started the Ariel Community Academy, a public school in Chicago, in the inner city, with 100% African American students. Mm-hmm. And soon after, we created a financial literacy program for those kids, where we gave the kids real money to invest.
Real money, okay.
Yeah, let them, pick and choose stocks, and we would take them places like the McDonald's annual meeting every year, get them exposed to as many leaders like Joe Mansueto, the founder of Morningstar, and others. And the key thing is when they graduated from 8th grade, they would actually have some money to take with them from the success of their investing. And I think that was at the heart of it, and the kids really have loved it. It's had a great legacy, and the school's doing extraordinarily well.
I'm sure it must have had a profound effect, especially being so young to say, I've got real money, and look at me, Mom and Dad, I can make this happen.
Yeah,
so that's really great.
And it's helped with their parents. The parents are getting more financially literate. Mm-hmm. And then President Obama asked me to chair his Council on Financial Capability to help take this the word of financial literacy nationally. And he knew about our model because his home was only 4 blocks away from the school in the south side of Chicago.
That is just outstanding. And one last thing. We're here at the Smith School, we care a lot about diversity and inclusion. And so we're trying to figure out strategically what steps should we take going forward. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, one of the things I've been able to convince my friend Bob Zimmer, who's the extraordinarily gifted president of the University of Chicago, is if you want future leaders of color, you've got to make sure that you're asking the questions of all of your vendors about, well, where's the diversity? If you're hiring a law firm, you're hiring an accounting firm, you're hiring an investment bank, why don't you have minority partners there? And I start with that to say that if you have minority partners in those professional services agencies, they go out and they become role models for the next generation of leaders. Their kids get the best educations and the best opportunities because they've had these lucrative careers. Mm-hmm. And you really sort of start to see success. So we always say what the U of C does now is they ask all their vendors about the diversity of the team that services the University of Chicago. Plus, the University of Chicago now is working with 50 minority-owned professional services firms that they weren't 6 years ago. They've got 10 firms managing part of the endowment. They've got law firms. They've got accounting firms. They're advertising in Black Enterprise and Ebony Magazine and WVON Radio. They're just doing all this wonderful work. And if you think about it, those generation of entrepreneurs can take the work at the University of Chicago, and it's a badge of how successful they are, and then they can manage money for the University of Maryland, or they can be the law firm for the University of Cincinnati, or whatever it happens to be, and build real successful enterprises. And then they become the next generation of board members. They become, again, role models. And then their kids have the opportunity to get the best education to be the PhD like you, to be able to work at a great institution like this.
It sounds great. So I want to thank you for your wonderful insights, and it's a pleasure having you, Mr. John Rogers.
Thank you.